Hello, good afternoon. I thought I'd share a reflection at lunchtime today rather than early on in this morning. That might have something to do with Samuel not sleeping particularly at the moment, but also I've only just got round to kind of putting some thoughts together as well. And I want to share some words from 1 Corinthians 13. They're really popular words at weddings, they're really well known, and so when I read them you may be familiar with them. But I just want to put them in context before I write them. The words that I'm going to read from 1 Corinthians 13 are found in a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to a wealthy and exuberant community in the Roman Empire. Trade happened there. It was a really exciting place to live. A word that commentators use would be cosmopolitan. It was like maybe a little bit like Manchester or London or Liverpool are today. And Paul is writing to the new church there to encourage them in faith. And in the chapter preceding the words I'm going to read, he talks about unity. He talks about the church needing to be united and to be one community. And then he talks about each person in the community having different gifts, and those gifts working together for the good of the whole community. What we've seen in the past couple of weeks, and what we're going to continue to see hopefully in the coming few months, is our communities coming together. Boris Johnson said yesterday that what we have seen in our communities is that society really does exist, and it's good to hear someone in government saying that. But we've seen a coming together of neighbours, of neighbourhoods, of villages and towns to support one another in difficulty. And that's been a real joy to be part of and to watch. And then we've seen people with different gifts using them to build up the wider community. The gifts of the doctors and nurses, the gifts of those cleaning and providing supplies for hospitals, the gifts of shopkeepers and staff in shops, of teachers still going and opening schools and teaching, to the people that are doing the refuge collections, that are keeping local authorities alive, and all those other jobs that maybe we wouldn't think of. They're there using their gifts for the good of the community. Some people would say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. When people face adversity, they run away. And yet what we've seen is, as a community, as a society, as we faced adversity, as we continue to face struggle, people are uniting together and they're using their gifts, even if it's just in social media. There's a lot of clergy having to learn what social media is at the moment to help support that community. And so it's out of that teaching about unity, about gifts, that Paul then goes to talk about love. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 he says, love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then will I know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love remain. These three, and the greatest of these is love. They're really familiar words, really powerful, poetic words. And I just want to focus, if I may, on that last verse, that last sentence. And now faith, hope, and love remain. These three. And the greatest of these is love. And what I want to do is I just want to spend the next 3 days thinking about those three words on their own. Faith, hope, and love. And so today, I've spoken for quite a long time already, I just want to think briefly about faith. What is faith? What does faith actually mean? For Christians, faith is about trust. Maybe that's the same for everyone. Faith is about trust. What is it that you have faith in? Just today, what are the things that you have faith in? When you go and sit down on a chair, you don't think, will this chair hold me up? You have faith that the chair will hold you up, that it won't just collapse underneath your weight. Friends, you have faith in your friends that they will support you, that they will care for you, that they will be there for you when you need them. Maybe even faith in family too, that family will support you no matter what. Every day, all of us have faith in things without knowing it. I was going to put faith in the car to get us from A to B, but I think that might be, certainly with my car anyway, more hope than faith. And so we have things that we trust in each and every day. The author of the book of Hebrews, which was written about AD 70 to Jewish Christians throughout the Roman Empire, talks about faith in this way. It says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Faith is the living out of those things that we don't yet have. Faith is the trusting that things will come true and that we won't be disappointed. Faith in God is about trusting God to walk with us every day of our lives. Faith in God is about knowing that we are loved for who we are and that we don't need to earn love, that we don't need to do something to attain something greater in life. Throughout the last couple of weeks, the readings of morning prayer in the Church of England have been taking us through the book of Hebrews, as I've mentioned. And in that book, it talks about, over the last couple of days, it's been talking about people of faith. People like Abraham, of Isaac, like Jacob, like Sarah, like Joseph and Moses and David and even the disciples. And talking about the fact that they had faith despite the difficulties. Joseph was sold as a slave into Egypt. Moses was in Egypt and led the people of Israel out of slavery. King David was a king, one of the greatest kings of Israel, that suffered torment and suffering despite being such a great king. The disciples gave up all that they had to follow Jesus, and then he died upon a cross. They were then persecuted by people throughout the Roman Empire. Despite their suffering, they trusted in God for their lives. They trusted in God that he would love them and care for them and protect them no matter what. And so I just wanted to offer, really, wherever you're at, however you're feeling, at the prospect of lockdown maybe lasting much longer than we had anticipated, faith is about trusting that God will walk this journey with us and that he will not let us down, that he will not let us go, that we will not be left alone to face difficulties without him there. Faith is about God saying, I am with you, I walk with you. This journey is not yours alone. The author of the Hebrews, having spoken about all these different people, the trials that they faced and the faith which remained, goes on to say, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who for our sake of joy was set before him the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. The author of the Hebrews tells those people who have faith, those people who want to trust in God, to fix their eyes upon Jesus through his teaching, through his example of life, and through the fact that he sits at God's right hand now. To follow him, to trust in him, and know that the pain he went through upon the cross was for us. And that because of that, whatever difficulty we may face, whatever strife there may be in the coming weeks, Jesus has experienced even that. And he says there is a way through. He says that suffering is not the end, that death is not the end, but there is hope in the future. I'm going to talk about hope tomorrow because I've talked for far too long. But I want to encourage those Christians that are out there. This is the point at which we dig deep into our faith and that we trust that God will prevail. And for those of you who aren't sure where your faith is at, feel free to give me a call. My contact details are hopefully on our Facebook page. If not, they're on our website. And if you don't want to do that, just quietly sit down one day and say, God, can I trust you? And my prayer for you will be that God will pour out his Holy Spirit, that you will know his love, you will know his reassurance, and that you might hear some sort of quiet voice saying, I am with you. For that is the promise we learn and celebrate at Christmas, and the promise that we're gearing up to celebrate at Easter, that God is with us, that God never leaves us, and that the journeys we face, he will walk with us on them always. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow to talk about